Minister, I'm happy to speak briefly on the July education programme. As we know, the scheme provides funding for an extended school year for children with a severe or profound general learning disability or children with autism. Where school-based provision is not feasible, 40 hours of home-based provision may be granted. I was shocked to read reports earlier this week that many disability organisations and parent representatives have expressed alarm at proposals outlined to them at 2 separate briefings with the Department of Education officials. As I understand it from the reports, they were told that new limits would be placed on children accessing the programme this year. Given that more than 10,000 children with autism or a profound intellectual disability avail of the 2-week scheme every summer, this is indeed extremely concerning. Indeed, this and the wider lack of classroom provision across the Midland counties for children with autism or special need diagnosis are issues that I have highlighted here many times on the floor of this House. From the information provided to me by the NCSE, the allocation list for special classes in primary and post-primary schools for the academic year 2019-2020 showed that only 10 new places were being provided for all schools in Laois Offaly, in addition to a further 9 in total for Longford and Westmeath. This becomes even more stark when you consider that Offaly has almost 40 primary and post-primary schools that have a requirement for special classes. So the allocation that has been provided is clearly insufficient and will not match the level of need or demand that currently exists. This situation will only be compounded by the proposed changes to the July education programme. I'm aware that the Education Admissions to School Act 2018 can assist in addressing this issue, where the NCSE is of the opinion that there is insufficient education provision for children with special needs in a particular area. And that is why I want to ask you, Minister, to review the situation in Laois Offaly and the wider Midlands area under the relevant sections of this Act. As a parent and former Gael School principal, I absolutely believe that all children, including children with special educational needs, have a right to an education in line with their abilities in order to live a full and independent life. I also understand, Minister, that the situation previously was that the allocation of home-based provision to siblings for July provision was reflective of the school grouping principle. That is where one teacher is allocated to a class of 6 pupils at an appropriate educational level, primary or post-primary. Accordingly, it was considered appropriate, as in a school situation, that a tutor can provide tuition at the appropriate educational level to more than one sibling at that level simultaneously in the home. Is it the case that issues around insurance or indemnity for tutors attending homes in the current situation has contributed to the difficulties the programme is currently facing?
Yeah, well, look, just maybe to divide into 3, I know you talked about the school places for children with special educational needs, and what's really happening here is it's not just a Dublin-based or a Cork-based issue anymore. Obviously, there were a lot of pressures last year in Dublin 15, and yes, I did enact the legislation, but critical to enacting that legislation was the cooperation from the school authorities, and we had a tremendous focus on the ground, engaging with the principals, and I want to acknowledge in particular Monsignor Dan O'Connor, who was pivotal in ensuring that we got the extra places. So if there are issues in Offaly, in your constituency, where schools are, obviously the school principals may have reservations and may have concerns around what this would look like, and would they have the proper resources, will they have the create the proper environment as well for their students, but it's about having that leadership at a local level as well. So enacting the legislation is one thing, but certainly having that cooperation, spirit of cooperation on the ground from management authorities is critical as well.